Hello and welcome to our next video. In this video, we're going to talk just a little bit more about source control. So I was going to check in my changes and just let you guys do that on your own. And then when I hit F5 and rescanned, I noticed a couple things and I just wanted to talk briefly about them so that you'll be aware of them as well. So when I did my changes here, I hit F5 and it scanned in and it got this .suo file. Now I've already got it checked in apparently because it says they differ. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to check that in, but I wouldn't necessarily need to. So a .suo file is going to be a solution for the user specifically. So anybody who runs will get their own .suo file, and so you can actually remove an SUO file usually without any consequences, because every time you rebuild the project or restart the project, you should get a new one anyway. So we really don't need that in source control. But what we really don't probably want in source control is anything in the bin or object folder. Now it looks like I've already pushed them as well. So unfortunately, I'm just going to go ahead and keep pushing them since it's saying they're different. But really, in a larger system, you would want to be careful not to add these. Bin and object, these are created when you run the project. And if you put them in source control, it means if you're using like a TFS, for example, you might have to check them out every single time you were going to modify them. Now the advantage of Git here, obviously it doesn't matter in that case. So with Git, if you guys are using Git on your TFS backend, or if you're just using Git like we're doing for this course, maybe it doesn't matter that you check in the bin and the object folders. But if you're working in a regular Microsoft professional environment where your code is done into a TFS source control, and that has specific rights on everything, and it isn't going to do the same thing as Git, basically using the default TFS engine. In that case, you probably want to leave the bin and the object folders out, because it's really annoying to have to check that out every single time you want to rebuild your project and work with it. And they're just created every time you rebuild your project and work with it anyway, so there's really no reason to put them into source control. However, since mine are already here and we are using Git, I'm going to go ahead and add just everything that's there, but I'm going to leave out, of course, my 4 now database files. Now I have my contact web database files as well as my identity database files. So everything is there, and we just don't need to use those. So what I'm going to do is hit Control-I, and that should stage my files. Looks like I have 11 new files, which are going to be my views and things like that, so that's fine maybe. So you can see it did bring in, I hit Control-I, so it brought everything in. Let's unstage these. So that's going to be Control-U. And so there we can see now we have just the different information for our application as expected. And so let's go ahead and commit this, and we're going to call this created controllers and views. And again, I should still be wired up, so I shouldn't have to enter an arbitrary location. If for some reason yours isn't, just go out to your Bitbucket, find your URL, and put that into your arbitrary location and hit push. So that's going to push out to Bitbucket. It should take just a moment, and that should actually propagate to AppHarbor. So as long as I have your attention on that, we'll check and make sure it does. And so out on AppHarbor, there it is. Let's go ahead and see if we have our contacts in place. Now this might be interesting because I've not changed my release web config yet. So we might get an error here trying to look for the database, because there may not be one in place, or it may try to use a local database, which is really interesting too. And it says an error occurred while processing a request. So that's not unexpected, because we forgot to wire up our database. So basically what that means is I need to go out, I need to get my web config, and I need to put this contact web data context into my release. I'm going to do that in a next video, so that everyone sees that in case for some reason they didn't watch this part, and we make sure that everyone has that in place. But that wraps up our video here that I wanted to touch base again on source control and getting it out to App Harbor. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.